Which hitting prospects have raised their stock the most this season? Find out next on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5 on Saturday, June 15th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White, and we have 12 prospect hitters who've raised their stock the most this season. We'll break this down in groups of 4, and the first group includes Christian Campbell, a second baseman with the Red Sox, Adrian Del Castillo, a catcher with the D-backs, Deyvison de los Santos, a first baseman with the D-backs, and Angel Henao, a shortstop with the Guardians.
Yeah, so the pair of Diamondbacks there, Adrian Del Castillo and Deyvison de los Santos, their numbers look completely ridiculous. And so I do think it's worth noting in their cases, AA and AAA, especially hitter-friendly in the Diamondbacks organization. Del Castillo's been at AAA this whole time. De los Santos split between the two. So, don't take their numbers at face value, but they do have great exit velocities that back up their production, and I definitely think they're worth digging into. Angel Henao, let me say that again, Angel Henao of the Guardians, he's hitting for a ton of average in the minors this year, and the whole package, if the Guardians were ever going to succeed in developing a Jose Ramirez again, it would kind of look like Angel Henao looks now, because he's 5'9", just like Ramirez, switch hitter like Ramirez. Definitely more of a contact-oriented approach, which is how Jose Ramirez also started out, but he's beginning to add power this year, and with some speed to go with it, and has been very productive in the minors this year. Young guy, but I do think arrows pointing straight up for Angel Henao, and you should treat him as a dynasty asset at this point.
Next group of hitter prospects, CJ Kayfus, a first baseman with the Guardians, Luke Keyshaw, a second baseman with the Twins, Lazaro Montes, a outfielder with the Mariners, and Augustin Ramirez, a catcher with the Yankees.
So yeah, at the time we're recording this, CJ Kayfus, who was the Guardians' third-round pick last year, he's batting about .350, and he just moved up to AA, and the performance has only gotten better. He's definitely more line drive focused than Power did right now, but he's done a better job pulling the ball than I think evaluators were expecting when he got drafted. So he's beginning to tap into the power a little more. And CJ Kayfus kind of fits with the Guardians' whole approach, where it seems like they draft guys with good plate discipline, good bat to ball skills, and then add the power later. And CJ Kayfus may already be fitting the molds there. Also, Lazaro Montes of the Mariners. This is one of the more well-known prospects on this list, probably, but it always just baffled me how he got a short shrift on the preseason top 100s list. I had him 55th on mine, but it seemed like the prospect world as a whole were dismissing him over strikeout concerns. But he cut down the strikeout rate to 25% last year. It's down to 17% this year at Low A Modesto, and he produces some of the best exit velocities in all the minors. I think there's a very easy Yordan Alvarez comp here in terms of how Lazaro Montes is built, how hard he hits the ball, and they both even worked with the same hitting coach after leaving Cuba, going to the Dominican Republic. So I think Lazaro Montes himself has made that comparison before. I think I read that. So if there's one prospect to single out on this list as the most imperative pickup in Dynasty, if he happens to be available, I would say it's Lazaro Montes.
And the last group of prospect hitters that we have for today, Johnathan Rodriguez, an outfielder with the Guardians. Lots of Guardians prospects on this list. Chandler Simpson, an outfielder with the Rays. Zach Veen, outfielder with the Rockies. And Jacob Wilson, a shortstop with the A's.
We've already seen Johnathan Rodriguez up for the Guardians this year very briefly, but he is a true right-handed masher. And as good as the Guardians lineup has been this year, that is one thing that they're missing. I think Johnathan Rodriguez could fill that role for them down the stretch if they give him another look. They still have an outfield spot that they could stand to upgrade. He has had some chase issues, some swing and miss issues in the past, but it's gotten a lot better with that. this year especially, and also become a guy who walks a fair amount. So I think Johnathan Rodriguez is looking very interesting. I do want to highlight Chandler Simpson also of the Rays, just because it's such an uncommon profile here. He's batting nearly 370, nearly 50 steals already, just one home run. And that's by design. Like, we see these speedster prospects come along, and a lot of times they get hyped. Victor Scott this year, for instance. Oh, this is the guy who's going to bring back like that Vince Coleman profile, the slap hitting speedster. And it never works out because it just doesn't seem like that player's capable of succeeding in the majors anymore. But Chandler Simpson, more than any of them, understands the assignment. He sells out for contact. He sells out for not fly, like he doesn't hit fly balls, 25% fly ball rate or thereabouts between his two stops this year. So I think he's really committed to making the most of what he has. And, if it all works out, we may have another Juan Pierre on our hands here in Chandler Simpson. But again, it's been a long time since we've seen that sort of player work out.
All right, for more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Odyssey app, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5, and we will be back again next week. Bye-bye.